Hey guys, Loco here, about to review some 9.5 patch notes. Let's see what Riot has in store. Hey nerds. Why did they have to call us nerds? Let's all welcome our updated Seraphim sisters, Kale and Morgana. Not too many crazy new changes this patch, but we're following up with champs like Akali and Sylas and tuning Conqueror. We're also throwing a bone to the buy mains and taking a pass at changing up Skarner's Spires. There are a couple of other champions we're monitoring due to their reliance on Conqueror, but until those changes to the rune settle in, we won't be taking immediate action. Also, we're going to nerf Israel in 9.6, still deciding if it'll be via double tier or Israel directly, but one way or another, Israel nerfs. Okay. Okay. I like it. Kale and Morgana. I'm sure you guys seen the new Kale, the new Morgana. I actually like the direction for the new Kale design, and certain champions were very dependent on getting levels in their ultimate and hitting certain level I would say certain level thresholds. Like for Kassadin, hitting level 16 is really important. For Sylas, hitting level 16 is really fucking important. So Kale having a mechanic that where she grows stronger every time she hits her ultimate threshold, I think is actually super cool. Okay, let's start with Akali. Ring movement speed duration increased, stealth from turrets adjusted, E damage increased, R cooldown decreased. Huh. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Akali gains movement speed duration. Akali gains bonus movement speed when she has her passive procced, which is her passive is after she uses a spell and she gets out of the circle, she gets movement speed and she starts flailing her little sword thingy or little rake thingy, and if she's able to hit a champion with it, then she gets bonus energy and does bonus damage. So it's going to make it easier for Akali to proc her passive. That's basically what that buff does. Akali is now only revealed by a turret within the turret's attack range rather than its sight range. Okay. And also, Akali now only needs to exit and re-enter her shroud once to extend the shroud's duration by the maximum 3 seconds rather than extending it by 0.5 seconds 6 times. Okay, so they made it easier for her to extend the duration of her shroud. They made it so she can still use W right outside of turret damage range, the turret auto attack range, but still in the sight range. Okay, changes. E shuriken flip. A little bit of just damage buff on the shuriken flip, and ultimate cooldown going down. I actually think the ultimate cooldown going down is really good. So they're upping a lot of the other aspects of Akali, while they completely removed her lane sustainability part in the earlier patch. So they're trying to give her strength where it's a little bit more healthy. I like the overall Akali changes. See, Nico, E root adjusted. The condition to Nico's roots were a little complicated, so we're simplifying them to make her more reliable, especially in team fights. Okay, so they made it extremely simple. You do 1.5 second on the first enemy hit, and then it doubles on the all other enemies hit. Okay, that's very simple, very straightforward. I think Nico right now, she kind of has this problem regarding identity in the game. Is she a jungler? Is she a top laner? That's being played in both roles as a flex pick isn't always the best thing, and it just means sometimes she doesn't have enough strength in a certain role, and and people are just trying to fit her everywhere. And also her item builds are also all over the place, where some people are going straight AP, some people are building her a little bit more on hit. I think she was meant to be built more straight AP. That's why Riot gave her all those AP tools and a very good way to engage the fight. So I do think Riot is going to start tuning her to be built more all AP. And I also do think Riot is going to start tuning her to be played mid lane, because that's where probably Riot had Nico designed and Nico in mind. She's a mid lane mage champion that's going to build AP. So for Nico, you want to hit an enemy before your primary target. I mean, you basically want to hit you, you want to hit with your E, but ideally, yes, you want to hit another target before you hit your primary target, but it doesn't matter. It's not that problematic if you just hit a E. Rakan, W damage and dash speed increased. Yeah, Rakan W actually got so fucking nerfed hard, where his W speed was incredibly slow. And yeah, boosting it is a very welcome change, because that was Rakan's biggest strength, how guaranteed his engage was and how fast his engage was. It definitely needed a nerf, but the nerf was way too harsh, and now Riot's trying to find a good place for him. Spire radius increase. Red buff Spire now covers Krug, Raptors on both sides of the map. Spire is removed from the minimap. So basically what this does is, on the red buff side, you can use the Spire attack speed to be able to kill both the Krugs and the Raptors. Initially, before this change, it only made it so you could only use the Spire attack speed buff on the red camp, but now you can use it for all 3 camps on the red buff side. And also, Spire's no longer appearing on the minimap. It's very good in terms of Skarner being able to counter jungle and being able to be a little bit more sneaky, and he doesn't have to announce to the whole enemy team every time he walks into enemy jungle to counter jungle. So a lot of quality of life changes that are good for great for Skarner. Vi, attack speed growth decrease, passive cooldown increase, but W now reduces it. Q ratio decrease, no longer deals reduced pass-through damage. W attack speed increase. E AoE can now crit. R cooldown damage, knock up, knockback increased. No longer deals reduced pass-through damage. So they're trying to make her a little bit better for team fights and a little bit better in terms of jungle clear. How can I explain why Vi was bad? So in competitive play, what's really bad about Vi was she was a diver, but all her damage was very, very reliant on her Q. And most of the time you'd be maxing Q also. So you would charge up your Q to approach and do damage, and if you missed your Q, you would actually not do that much damage, and you won't be able to kill targets when you missed your Q. So it was, play pattern wise, Vi was really bad in terms of being able to actually function as a champion in high tier play where people are very good about dodging your Q. So now these changes make it a little bit better for Vi in terms of her team fighting. A lot of the strength is actually given to W, E, and R, and she's gonna have better jungle clear now. Maybe there's gonna be builds where you max E or W instead of Q. So we'll see. We might see more viability for Vi. But one thing that also does really hurt Vi is stopwatch existing in the game now, because stopwatch completely demolishes Vi ultimate, and also Vi Q whenever you do jump in. Some audio cleanup resolution, I guess that doesn't really matter. Healing decreased on Relic Shield. I do think Relic Shield was one of the most powerful support items in terms of versus Relic Shield, Ancient Coin, and Frostfang, so I do like seeing a little bit of nerf on it. Storm Rager, this is still such a weird item. I don't think anyone really buys it as a core part of their build anymore, so it is nice to see some buff on it. Aftershock, just matching to the tooltip. Conquerors. This is actually the really big one. Let's read it. We hotfixed Conquerors in the middle of the last patch, decreasing the range stack duration and the number of adaptive force per stack, but it's still too strong, especially in mid to late game. With its new stacking model, champions gain stats leading up to the proc, and late game scenarios actually trigger it faster than previous iteration of Conqueror. We're pulling out some Conqueror's late game strength while retaining more core true damage and healing conversion. This change is overwritten by the line above. Okay, so it's overwritten by the line above. Oh, how do I feel about current Conquerors? My biggest gripe with Conquerors is true damage should be something very rare and very unique to a champion kit, and giving it to Keystone is something that I'm not a very big fan of. So I still think Conquerors conceptually has a lot of problems with it, and I know they reduce a lot of the true damage on it, but I would really like it if Riot really thought about why Conquerors needs to do true damage and why it even exists. I understand that as bruisers need to be able to kill tanks later on in the game, and without having true damage, it's really hard, but maybe it's not the best way. Maybe bruisers should be more based around and balanced around getting armor pen in certain ways instead of true damage. I think true damage is a very unhealthy stat, because it's a unhealthy concept, because it's a concept that just demolishes all the resistance that all these tanks build and all the defensive steroids that the tanks build. And I'm not sure a true damage should really exist as a keystone, and that's my biggest gripe with Conquerors. Simple changes. E damage increased. Okay. E magic resist increase. Seems like these are all buffs. Yeah, buff to Gangplank. These are all just very small buffs. Q attack damage increase. Riot's just giving small buffs to all the champions that are getting underplayed. W heal increase early, decrease rate, heal ratio increase, damage ratio increase. Okay. Making it so tank Silas isn't as good. Making Yorick a little bit worse. His split push and picking him against tanks is crazy. Fixing a bug on Rek'Sai. These are all small changes. AR Rush, I don't really care about any of this shit. Okay. Overall feelings on the patch. Riot doing their best to try to deal with Conquerors and make it healthy for the game. I think that's like the hardest part for it. And I don't think they really nailed the change, and they're gonna have to work more on it. We'll see. I think this is something that's gonna get constantly touched on until they do something big with it. Other than that, I liked all the changes. I think the Vi and the Garner change are really interesting. They're breathing life into Rakan again, breathing life into Akali again. These are really good things that I like seeing Riot doing, where they kill a certain champion, right? Like Akali and Rakan, because they're way too oppressive and they have way too much strength. And they're slowly giving them strength where they do think it's possible and viable for them to have it. Alright, that's the end of my 9.5 patch note review. Bye bye.